Okay, I'm Mike Willis here with USA Wrestling for another edition of Team USA Tuesday. I'm joined by women's national team member Maya Nelson. Maya, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a good day outside. The sun is shining. It's good.
Right on. Good weather always makes life a little better.
Yeah,
Um, so we got some questions for you today. Some of them are pretty easy, some of them a little harder, but why don't we just jump right into it if that sounds good to you?
for sure.
All right. Favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Mulan, and that's been since I was a little kid. Mulan, number one movie.
Classic. Are you a Disney fan in general?
I yeah, I'm pretty much. I think so. I'm not like a diehard fan, but I love Disney films. So yes,
Gotcha. Who is your favorite musical artist?
Whitney Houston. I think she's the greatest of all time. Like as of right now, no one has touched her. So Whitney Houston.
Yeah, she's a legend. You can't go wrong with picking a legend. What's your favorite food? And I guess you could say favorite food when you're, maintaining your weight, and favorite food when you don't have to worry about weight, or they could be one and the same.
Okay. They're not one and the same. So when I'm maintaining my weight, I will crave Caesar chicken salad. Like it's such a weird thing. And some of my friends are like, Maya, what is wrong with you? But no, I will crave chicken Caesar salad. And then when I'm not being healthy, I love Mexican food. I grew up on Mexican food, like carne asada, tacos, enchiladas. That's me. I love all of it.
Yeah. And you grew up in the Denver area. Denver has some really, really good Mexican food. So, that makes sense.
Yeah, they do have good Mexican food, but because my mom's Mexican, so we would always be over my aunt's house and my grandma's house. That's the kind of Mexican food I grew up on. So sometimes it's kind of hard eating out at Mexican places because I'm like, oh, this isn't exactly the way that my family makes it.
Yeah, I can't relate being Irish. I had a lot of mashed potatoes growing up, but we're not really known for our cuisine. So I bet you can't beat a homemade Mexican meal. That sounds amazing. Um, so, what is your favorite sport to watch other than wrestling?
So I used to love to watch football. Like I knew stats, I knew players, I watched the draft, all of it. Um, as of late, I don't really watch that much TV as is, so I don't really watch other sports. I'm usually listening to music. So I think to answer that question, football used to be my favorite sport to watch, but now I don't really watch any sports.
Gotcha. Were you a Broncos fan?
Yes, my whole family is a diehard Broncos fan. You know, I gotta be. I'm a Broncos fan.
Yeah,
Even though I don't watch it really anymore, I'm still a Broncos fan.
gotcha. Did you play any other sports growing up?
Oh gosh, I played so many sports growing up. Like me and my sister, we used to play sports together, but I played tennis, I ran track, I played softball for a season, basketball, I fouled out every single game, volleyball, what else? Soccer, I love soccer. If I didn't go the wrestling route, I probably would have gone the soccer route. And I played football, and I also obviously wrestled growing up.
What position did you play in soccer?
In soccer, I was a defender, so I was like stopper right above the goalie. And sometimes I would play goalie, but I was not that big growing up either. So sometimes as a goalie, you have to have reach, and I'm a 5'3" woman, so
Yeah, I was actually a goalkeeper growing up, and I'm 5'7", so I can relate to the struggle of the short goalkeeper. You got to
yes,
wear it with good angles and smart play because
exactly.
going up and taking a header off a 6 foot forward's head. At least I wasn't. I was not that good. So did I hear you played football too?
Yes, I did. I played football from the age of 8, and then my last season was my freshman year. So freshman year of high school, I played through that season. And then I decided that 230-pound middle linebacker just did not make sense on a football field with boys that were growing into men. So I decided that sophomore year, that's when I started getting more serious into the wrestling world. And kind of just zoning in on wrestling.
Yeah. What positions did you play in football? And, was there any weirdness being a girl and playing football?
I think when you're 8 years old, like kids are just kids, so it's not anything weird. I was a middle linebacker when I started and throughout all my seasons, and then sometimes they would play me at like on the line or something, but usually I was the middle linebacker. And I love defense because I could hit people. I liked just going through the A pocket, getting the quarterback or the running back or the fullback. I loved that. So I think that's why I also had love for watching it for such a long time as well. But yeah, that's my experience as a football player. Oh, and my teammates were always really cool. I don't think I ever had an issue with any of my teammates, and they respected me. They knew, like, because middle linebacker, we have to call the calls on the defensive side. So they were very respectful, and they listened to me throughout all of the time that I played football, which was really nice.
That's very cool. Who is your favorite wrestler to watch, past or present?
So hands down, my favorite wrestler is probably Clarissa Chun. But nowadays, like I don't know. There was this video of me watching World Championships this past year, and I think I was like looking down or something, and that was me like praying. And this is like I was watching my friends. It was either Tamara or Jakara, and I'm watching them. I love watching them wrestle. They are so exciting to watch and just so technically sound. Like it's amazing. I love watching them wrestle. But as I was saying, at World Championships, I was like looking down at the match, just praying because I was like, I know they're gonna win. But I was like, okay, everybody, don't touch me. And then I'd look up for a little bit. And I'm like, but yeah. So right now, it's definitely Tamara and Jakara. But hands down, Clarissa Chun is one of my favorite wrestlers to watch.
Is it more stressful being in a high pressure match or watching your friends wrestle a high pressure match?
Oh gosh, probably watching my friends, because when I'm in the match, like I have control over what I do in the match, and if I lose, it's my fault, But when you're watching someone, oh my gosh, I just get so nervous and I can't do anything, and I'm like yelling, and usually as I know it, me as a wrestler, I can barely hear people who are yelling at me. So I know from 3 spots up in the stands that they can't hear me, but I still like cheer them on. So it's definitely more like I get really shaky when I'm watching my friends. But when I'm on the mat, I'm like, all right, I got this. I just got to beat her up for 6 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough. I know, from press row, it's hard to not yell and cheer and shout too. And, that's just from a communication standpoint, not even a, fellow athlete standpoint.
Yeah.
I got Gary Abbott elbowing me, telling me, don't cheer. I said, sorry, I'm excited.
You're like, this is a good match.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of your hobbies outside of wrestling and, when you get away from the mats?
Outside of wrestling, I like to do makeup sometimes. I guess you can kind of call me a girly girl because I like doing makeup. I love doing hair, whether it's styling it, whether it's braiding it. I love hair. And I sing. I recently started learning how to play the piano. So I guess those are some of the hobbies outside of wrestling that I have right now.
Very cool. Have you always been musically inclined, or is this like a new thing?
My mom, she used to be in a mariachi band. She was the lead singer. And so I got my singing from her. And when I was little, I would just be singing as loud as I could in the shower. It would only be in the shower. I wouldn't sing outside of the shower, but as loud as I could at the top of my lungs, belting out I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. And I'm like, probably 4 at the time, like, why am I singing these words? But all the time my mom would say, you're giving me a concert when you go to the shower. So she was always really supportive of that. But other than that, I didn't really sing. I don't really sing outside of my own area or my own comfortability. Actually, no, that's a lie, because sometimes I do sing the national anthem at wrestling tournaments. So
Very cool. This question can go, funny, or you can stick serious, but what is your biggest fear?
Oh, gosh. My biggest fear, like, in seriousness, my biggest fear is having someone that I love or someone that I care about get hurt. But, you know, I feel like also, like, it's also a fear of mine to just, you know, those dreams where you're naked and everybody's laughing at you. That's I don't know why that's a fear, but it's always been a fear. I'm like, oh man, every time I wake up from those dreams, I'm like
That's funny. I've had those dreams, but I feel like I leave that in the dream world. Like I'm never afraid that a real life situation is going to occur where that happens. But
the only time I could see that happening, like for me anyway, is like if I'm switching my singlet, you know, so it could be applicable, but other than that.
Yeah. Fair enough. So, you know, you're in the thick of it right now, and it might be kind of hard to think of life like, you know, post-competitive wrestling, but have you given thought to what you want to do when you're done competing?
Definitely. And I've had some ideas of what I'm doing, like whether it's the hair route, maybe something to come up with the singing, or, you know, maybe I coach. And there's a lot of alleys I can go down, but I'm so go with the flow. I believe that life will take me where I'm supposed to be. So I know that I have ideas and things that I'm good at. So wherever life takes me, I know that that's where I'm supposed to end up.
How did you first get involved in wrestling?
My dad, he is a little league coach, and he still has his little league. It's called the Knights, but when I was with them, it was called the Blue Knights, and we were out of the YMCA. But he had been coaching my whole life, and I wanted to be daddy's little girl. So I was like, oh, if I start wrestling, I'll obviously be daddy's little girl. So I remember I asked my mom and my dad, and they have always been very supportive of, and they believe I can do anything I set my mind to. So they were supportive, and I start wrestling at like 3.5, so because I was going to turn 4 that year. So I start wrestling around that time period, and I lose every single match for 2 years straight, every single match. And I don't even know what kept me in the sport, but I started winning and I liked it, and now here we are.
Yeah, glad you stuck with it. I mean, that one definitely paid off for you.
Yeah.
Growing up, was there any additional pressure being the coach's kid?
No, kind of, because so my dad, I never became daddy's little girl. He was just harder on me than he was on anyone else, because he wanted me to work hard. He wanted me to be the best that I could in anything that I did. And I understand that now as an adult, but as a kid, you're like, what? We have to go run hills on Saturday? So that's a little peek into my life as a child, because I know my parents just always wanted the best for me, and they're trying to give me the tools to, you know, survive throughout life.
Yeah, very true. So yesterday you launched a campaign on Twitter. This is what a wrestler looks like. It really took off. What was your inspiration behind, you know, launching this campaign and putting this message out there?
Emotions have been really high, you know, during this whole time, pandemic and all of the protesting and stuff like that. And I felt like I wasn't doing anything. You know, I know I just got off of surgery, and obviously I was in the house, you know, just trying to heal. And I knew that, but I was sitting there and I was feeling down, and I was like, I want to do something. I want to do something. Maybe there's something in the wrestling world that I can do. Maybe there, you know. And I remember I was on Instagram, and I met this girl here. Her name's Iman Blow, and I call her a friend now, and she is a fencer. And I was watching her story, and she put up this campaign called #This is what a fencer looks like. And it kind of set off just a bunch of ideas in my head, because I remember in high school, so when I was a freshman in high school, this isn't wrestling, but I was a football player, and a lot of people didn't know what I looked like. They just knew that there was a girl on the football team. And when I started, people started recognizing me, I guess. They were like, wow, I didn't think you were what a football player looked like. Like, I would never have assumed that you would be a football player. And I actually have gotten that a lot throughout my life on the wrestling side, because when I tell people, oh yeah, I'm a wrestler, they're like, wow, you don't look like a wrestler. And I'm like, what does a wrestler look? I am a wrestler, so I must be what a wrestler looks like. So when I saw her campaign, I texted her and I was like, hey, I saw this campaign. I was inspired by it. Can you tell me what you did? Can you help me out? So we get on the phone and we just had an hour-long meeting, and she told me about everything that she did, everything that she wanted to do better, and she helped me out. She gave me the applications to do all of the posters and flyers and stuff like that. So once I got all that laid out, I've been working on it for the past couple weeks, and I wanted to make it as easy as possible because I wanted a lot of people to be involved. So I'm busting out 90 plus of these flyers, you know, trying to be inclusive as well, because I know, you know, being a girl in wrestling, we almost try to get shoved out because some people don't believe that we belong. And on top of that, you know, you don't look like a wrestler is actually a microaggression, because you're telling me that what I am is not something that I could possibly be because of the way I look. So then I started putting in, you know, Greco and men's freestyle and, you know, women's. And by the end, I was looking at it. I was like, okay, well, it's ready. So I started over the weekend. I'm sending out mass emails and trying to get people to be involved with this. And I didn't know how well it was going to work. I remember I just prayed. I was like, oh my gosh, this can be good. This can be real good. You're like, this is something that I was passionate about, and I really wanted it to look good and for people to be involved. And it blew up, and I was like, wow, I actually did something, and I felt really accomplished about it. So now I'm just still working on, you know, the compilation post because yesterday I posted the women, today I posted Greco, and tomorrow I'll post men's freestyle, and maybe at some point do some like Instagram live interviews with some of the people that I featured on the flyers.
It's very cool, and I know I've certainly enjoyed going through, and I know a lot of colleges got behind it and been putting up pictures too. So folk style guys get represented in there as well. But what has the reaction been that you've seen? Have you gotten any feedback on it so far? I know it's been, you know, a pretty quick turnaround from when you launched it to right now. So
I've been having nothing but positive feedback, and even some of the girls, they text me, they were like, Maya, this is so cool. I'm like, thank you so much. It was just something that I thought, you know, representation is sometimes not seen as important in some areas, or just like totally not even thought of, right? And I wanted this to reflect that. I wanted to reflect that we do have a lot of diversity in the wrestling world, and I want everyone to see themselves. When I say, what does a wrestler look like, I want you to be able to look in the mirror and be like, it's me. I'm a wrestler. I'm what a wrestler looks like.
yeah, that's awesome. It's a really cool idea, and definitely something people should be paying attention to going forward. I look forward to the more you add to it and what's going to come from it. So very cool. But so this year you are cutting down to 62 kilograms. You are number 2 on the national team at 65. Olympics get pushed back a year. You got your arm in a big old sling. So how has everything kind of affected your descent and, you know, your run basically to the Olympic Games?
This was actually, I believe it was a blessing in disguise. So I tore my labrum. I knocked off 75% of my labrum in October at U23 Worlds in repechage. And I actually didn't know the severity of the injury. I just knew that I dislocated my shoulder at U23s. And then when we got imaging, they told me that I tore my labrum. I also knew that I had to get ready for December nationals because I still hadn't qualified for Olympic trials. So honestly, I was really just being like chasing the clock, honestly, because I was like trying to heal, trying to train, trying to like keep my weight down. And honestly, before we got into the whole pandemic mode, I was really close to weight. I was doing really well on weight. I felt really strong, and I was doing what I could with my shoulder. So when all of it went down, when we finally did go home, I called my athletic trainer and I asked him, I was like, hey, can I get like, if, because I didn't know at this point, we didn't know anything. And I was like, hey, I think you guys are keeping us updated really well, but if they do postpone the Olympics, I do want to get my shoulder done because I know that it is an issue and I need to get the surgery. Comes to find out after I get the surgery, my athletic trainer was like, all right, well, I didn't tell you before, but your labrum was one of the worst tears that I've seen in a while. And I was like, I mean, thanks for not telling me, because it did help me to prepare and have a good mindset going into these tournaments. But dang, I did not know the severity of it. So I think that this time period has been kind of a blessing in disguise for me. It gives me time to heal. It has given me time to put my focus on other things like hashtag this is what a wrestler looks like, and getting in on meetings and getting involved more with USA Wrestling.
So going into senior nationals, you weren't aware of the severity of the tear?
No, I knew that it hurt. I knew that I couldn't, like, it would get fatigued very easily. So like, where if I were to put my arm down up on someone, if they would just move it, it would just fall. So after about like every like 20 minutes, I would have to take some breaks. So I knew it was kind of painful, and I have really high pain tolerance too. So that's also a factor in that. And I knew that I couldn't use it every way that I wanted to, but I did not know that it was like hanging on by a couple of strands.
You still made the finals and qualified for Olympic team trials, importantly.
Yes.
So how much longer do you know, are you going to be in the sling for?
I don't know. I'm actually going to see my athletic trainer tomorrow. Just to probably, because I have already started physical therapy, like little things like shrugging and stuff like that. But tomorrow I'm going in to see if we can add more and kind of just ask him how long I have to be in the sling. The hospital told me 4 weeks. So, and this is week 4. So hopefully,
yeah.
I'll
keep my fingers crossed, for a speedy recovery. So now you've been in the sport for a long time.
Yes.
What do you think the best advice that you've received has been?
The best advice I received is actually something really simple, and it's something that I can tell coaches to tell me, and it doesn't matter which coach it is, they can just tell me. But the best advice that I heard is just wrestle. And it kind of, in my head, the way it forms in my head is, just wrestle. It's not that serious. You should be having fun. You started this because you love this. So just wrestle. And Coach Ike Anderson told me that before each match of 2017. So I don't know if you saw the interview, but I did. I was emotions were so high. I was crying before every match. I would go in the back and I'd be like, I gotta go back here real quick, right? So because I didn't want everybody to see me cry, like, what, man? So I would go in the back and I'd be like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And he's like, Maya, you're okay. Just go out there and just wrestle. And then literally that's all it took, and my tears would dry. I'd go up and I would just wrestle. So that's my favorite advice. Even though, like, to some people you're like, what? I'm like, no. This is what it means to me.
Very cool. It's really interesting how sometimes it can just be like the smallest, like little phrases that can make something click for you. That's really cool. Flip side kind of this, but what advice would you give a younger wrestler who's kind of maybe just starting out in the sport?
Oh, so just a younger wrestler just starting out in the sport, I think that you have to know that the sport is hard, and also just remember that you do belong in this sport. You belong and you matter, and when you go out there, just have fun and just wrestle. But I also have another set of advice for kind of, the high schoolers, right? And I got this advice, and this is actually was really great advice for me in high school. And I got this advice from Adeline Gray, and she basically just told me before I was going into high school, she was like, Maya, do not date your teammates. It's not worth the drama. It is not worth the drama. It's not worth it. At the end of the day, boys are going to be there. Boys are going to be there when you're gone. And this is for the boys too. Girls are going to be there when you're done living your life, when you're done doing everything and anything that you want to do, when you're done traveling, they will still be there. And if they're not there, then it was not meant to be in the first place. So I'm telling you guys, to avoid so much drama and extra stress, just don't date your teammates.
That's probably words to live by right there. Sage advice passed down from one of the GOATs. So,
Yes.
kids, listen up. So, besides occasionally crying before your matches, which kind of seems to be a one-off thing, do you have rituals before you wrestle?
Oh, I do this thing where I'll like wipe the bottom of my shoes, and that's kind of to make sure that I don't have dust on them, but I wipe the bottom of my shoes, and then I usually like slap my shoulders, like both of them go across, and then I slap my butt, and then I go onto the mat. So I don't know where that came from or why I do it, but I don't know, I just feel comfortable. Like I feel once I do that, I'm like, all right, I'm ready.
Do you remember when you started doing that?
Ooh, probably in high school. It had to be high school. Yeah, high school or 8th grade. I'm not too sure, but it was closer to high school for sure.
Got it. So during, a particularly brutal training session, what gets you to kind of dig deep and keep going and keep pushing yourself?
I'm usually very self-motivated, so I'm not one of those wrestlers that need someone to be like, yeah, go, go. I'm like, oh gosh, please stop yelling at me. So it does help when coaches are like, yeah, let's pick it up, ladies. But when I'm training, my ideal training, there has to be music on in the background, like that little, even if I don't need it to be super loud, so because I still need to hear the coaches, but just a little bit, right? So when we are in the in-between moments of going live and I hear this little, back that thing up in the in the speaker, I'm like, yes, okay, you can still go, like keep going. And definitely I'm the 90s to 2000s hip hop in the room. Let's play it. Let's get this.
Right on. So no Whitney Houston?
No Whitney Houston, not while I'm training. I need more upbeat. More upbeat, more, like something that get your heartbeat up. And Whitney Houston doesn't really do that. Sometimes I will listen to Whitney Houston before matches though, because I like my heart rate a little bit more down before I go out there.
Interesting. No. Last question for you today, Maya. What is your best wrestling memory to date?
Oh gosh, I would have to say Finland as a whole. So Finland, when in 2017 we went to Junior Worlds in Finland, and the team was awesome. I love those girls. It was so great. And then I had a lot of firsts in Finland, so I don't know if this is a specific wrestling type of memory, but I think, when it involved the team and stuff, we did things like kayaking and rowboating and stuff like that, and it was so much fun, which made the whole experience at the cherry on top of me winning that year. It made it just full circle. It was a great experience. I love that team. I loved the environment, that has hands down been my favorite world championship. So
yeah, awesome. Do you think you'd still feel that way even if you hadn't won?
I think so, only because I'd never been kayaking. I've never done cryo, the when you stand in the ice, whatever. I've never done that before. It was just like a lot of fun. So I would have still been like, you know what, Finland is a great place. But it was a cherry on top that I won for sure.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for coming on today for this Team USA Tuesday, Maya. I appreciate giving a little insight and telling us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Best wishes for a speedy recovery, and hopefully you're back on the mat soon, and we're all back on the mat soon.
I know. Thank you. We'll wrestle again.